Hello everyone and welcome to our Glassdoor webinar, How to Respond to Negative Reviews on Glassdoor. Just a few webinar tips for attendees before we get started. You will be muted throughout the session so that you can make sure that you can ask any questions that you may have on the bottom left-hand panel on your screen. All lines will be muted to avoid background noise. For those social butterflies amongst us, please do use the social tag at Glassdoor UK and the hashtag GDChat. So featured speakers today, let me introduce myself. My name is Dania and I run the marketing programs here at Glassdoor EMEA. I've been with Glassdoor for approximately a year and a half in Dublin, and before then I lived and worked in London in marketing in the restaurant technology sector. I'm here to talk to you today about something that we're all passionate here about in Glassdoor, spreading the word about just how important your employer brand is and how reviews can help play an important part in building that brand. We will look at ways in which you can effectively manage them along with reviews. A great little goal for today is to ensure that we leave you with one or two key takeaways to go back to your company and start implementing them right away. So let's get started. Today's agenda will start with us having a quick overview on how your employer brand relates to reviews. We're then going to move on to discuss something people don't always realize, that bad reviews aren't always bad for business and you can actually turn them into a recruiting advantage. We'll then look at getting started, and then we can talk about how you can get started in the responding to reviews process and some key tips to keep in mind when you are responding. Great, so let's kick things off and open up the conversation with what exactly is an employer brand? I like starting out with this quote from the CEO of Amazon. Your brand is what other people say about you when you are not in the room. I absolutely agree with this. How would your people describe the experience of working at your company? Is it laid back? Is it work hard, play hard? That is ultimately your employer brand, and your employees are the ones who are going to define that for you. Companies say they are such a great place to work and they want to shout it from the rooftops, but ultimately it is what your employers say, or your employees rather say. And if they are not happy, they're going to tell everyone that they know, and your brand could suffer. Whether you like it or not, your employees do have a voice. They share it with their social networks, and now they're starting to share it on sites like Glassdoor. So ask yourself, how healthy is your employer brand? Here are 3 questions that you can consider. Would current employees recommend your organization to a friend? What are job seekers saying about you on social media? And what is your company rating on Glassdoor? Have you been and checked it out? So moving on to 3 steps to make your company stronger and your company reputation. Number 1, embrace feedback. The days of a one-way conversation are over. The more transparent you are as an organization, the healthier your culture will become. So that moves us on to number 2, share what makes you unique. Don't be shy to post photos, videos, company updates, and show the world what's happening in your company. And number 3, get executive support. Getting executive buy-in, you can start by summarizing the activity on your Glassdoor profile to the executive team. Point out the key trends and look at both the good and bad while starting that conversation with them. Embrace feedback. It makes sense, doesn't it? Who would want to be hired at a company who tries to hide what it's like to work there? That's the impression you give if you're not willing to be transparent as a company. With 90% of job seekers saying that it is important to work for a company that embraces transparency, I think now is the time to do so. bad reviews are good for business. So something that not everybody would possibly know. This is something that we should all have a quick think about. With 65% of Glassdoor users agreeing their perception of a company improves after seeing an employer respond to a review. Let's face it, constructive criticism can initially be hard to swallow. Your immediate reaction may be to get defensive, and maybe even offended if the review relates personally to you. But we have found that bad reviews can actually be good for business. Candidates want complete transparency. They notice that there are no bad reviews, and then they'll become suspicious of this. They will assume that you're censoring feedback. Think of it this way. You're not losing job seekers by showing bad reviews. You're steering them towards jobs and companies that won't disappoint them. So this gives you a platform to improve your reputation. The impact on recruiting. Let's take a look at the impact on recruiting. With the average cost per hire sitting at just over $4,000 US, which is just over 3,000 Great British pounds, with a 10% increase for companies with bad reputations. So a 10% increase on that is really rather high. There's no better time to take control of that employer voice. Why risk paying more per hire instead of building that voice and brand? We are seeing more and more companies using reviews to impact business partnerships. Salesforce leverages company and CEO ratings on Glassdoor as leading metrics in deciding which companies to potentially acquire. We are seeing more and more companies looking at leading metrics on Glassdoor when making business decisions. We can see here that Glassdoor is influencing more candidates in more ways. Tips for responding. Let's recap on some action tips for everyone here. It may seem like common sense, but you would be surprised how often this can be overlooked. Check for typos. You may want to even look at writing your response in a Word document first, so that you can spell check and edit until you are pleased with the final product. Because once it's there, it's there. Be courteous and professional. Avoid naming people who may feel have written the review, and do not threaten individuals. Ensuring that your title and your name are correctly written in the review, as these will show up next to it. So let's just quickly recap. Checking for any typo, because once it's live, and be courteous and professional when responding. Do not mention the name of an individual that you feel may have written the review, and not threatening anyone. Who should respond? So who should respond to reviews? We are often asked this question from many companies. I would say that anyone in your company who is authorized to speak on your behalf is an acceptable company representative. This may be your managing director. This may be somebody from HR. This may be somebody from human resources. It could be your PR department or your marketing team. As long as they have an authorized voice, they are suitable to respond to your reviews. So 4 tips for responding to negative reviews. Number 1, first of all, remember that your response is public and that you are responding on behalf of your company. So with that in mind, ensure that you have checked your responses for any typos, as we just said, and that your position and name are correctly displayed. I know we touched on that just a couple of slides ago. So while articulating your position, try and stick to the facts and any research that may back up your response. If you feel that the person leaving the review was completely in the wrong, others may also come to this conclusion. Do try and keep emotions away from your response. This may mean that you have to step back, take a deep breath, and come back to respond to the review at a later time. At Glassdoor, we take a neutral stance in all reviews. We do not act as the fact finder. There could be false information posted by an angry employee. In these cases, it really is best to respond as professionally as possible while refuting the post, using fact and not defensiveness. These can be the hardest reviews to reply to, so let's talk about some tips that may help you do that. If we look at Reward Gateway as a case study, don't be discouraged by a bad review. If you can see here, a bad review has given the opportunity to bond with employees and potential candidates. The Reward Gateway. So take constructive feedback to heart, but don't go on the defense. Remember that the best companies have room for growth. If we look at this example a little bit closer, a former employee at the company has left a negative review and specifically mentions the lack of career advancement. So Glenn Elliott, the CEO, responded personally, which allowed for an open and transparent conversation and gave both the employee and the employer an equal chance to be heard. The CEO did not come across defensive or short, but instead took the time to carefully craft a kind note back. He thanked the employee for pointing out the positive aspects of the company, demonstrated that he understood the employee's frustration. He acknowledged that the company isn't perfect and took the opportunity to explain the steps the company is taking to improve. Finally, he wished the former employee well and signed the response off personally. It is an important part of the process that you turn negative feedback into a positive learning experience. Reward Gateway sets a great example of how to respond to reviews, both good and bad. Importantly, the company states openly that it welcomes both positive and negative feedback, setting employees up to feel both empowered and comfortable sharing their honest feedback and opinions. So tip number 2, acknowledge and say thank you. Saying thank you shows that you are listening and sets you up in a position to be both gracious and professional. People appreciate acknowledgement of their problem, and often they are looking for transparency on a situation and empathy as opposed to an empty apology. So be honest and do give them that. The CEO at Zillow responds to reviews every Friday. As a result, 4 candidates in a recent 30-day period said that reading Spencer's employer response cemented their decision to accept the job offer at Zillow, which in itself I personally think is rather powerful. You may have also noticed in the previous Reward Gateway example, saying thank you shows that you are recognizing and listening to your employees' concerns. And something as simple can empower them to leave their honest feedback going forward. So let's look at some of our best places to work of 2017. What is a common theme that runs through all of these 4 best places to work winners? Well, they all share a commitment to making their people feel heard, validated, and empowered. They understand that the success of their business really does begin with employee satisfaction, and a big part of making that happen is inviting their people to leave reviews on Glassdoor and then responding to them and taking that seriously. Responding to reviews can help you recruit. Another quote from the HomeServe UK, who were 3rd place on the 2017 Best Places to Work list, is word of mouth from your people can be a really powerful tool for attracting the best people. Whether or not you respond to reviews can literally be the deciding factor in whether or not a candidate comes and works for your company. I mean, that was a really powerful quote there from HomeServe. Responding to reviews can really show potential employees or job seekers that what it's like to work for your company, and it could cement their decision as to whether they make that choice to apply to join your team. Take a minute to think about how you feel this could benefit your company when you consider taking action. Address specific issues. Don't shy away from accountability. Perhaps tip number 3. When you see issues being raised by multiple people, it's important to address them and show what your action plan is to act on the negatives mentioned in the review. In the Employer Center, we offer a word cloud to our clients that crawl all the feedback left on their profile. It inflates the size of the word based on how many times it has been mentioned. This gives anyone who has access to the Employer Center the opportunity to quickly scan employee sentiment and get that real visual snapshot as to what it's like to work for your company. This word cloud is a really, really popular product. So use this feedback to address both pros and cons within your company. Encourage that feedback by engaging your employees. Nobody is perfect, not even us here at Glassdoor. Negative reviews provide an employer with opportunities to show their authenticity and that they care about their employees by listening and actioning that feedback that's being provided. So consider this free advice to help grow your company. Shift your thinking to realize that bad reviews are really providing you with that transparent look at what it's really like to work for your company. Where else would you get that? So take that honest look and embrace the bad as you would the good. If we take a quick look here at Canon MEM, they also received a negative review. So let's break it down and see how the team at Canon dealt with it. They started out by thanking the reviewer, which I know we just touched on. Then Canon acknowledged and validated the reviewer's concerns without trying to deny that a problem exists. This builds trust, which then allows Canon to authentically present their own perspective. They point out that Canon is really committed to taking action and is taking steps to address them, even if these results are not immediately obvious. This shows they take these concerns seriously and want to improve the situation. This is a great example of a professional response. They are not defensive and they take the feedback in their stride and commit to using the review to improve their process the next time. So this is Canon's opportunity to show prospective talent how the organization handles problems and the changes that could be ahead. So utilize reviews to fix problems. Tip number 4. Let's look at using reviews to fix those problems. We've spoken a lot about how to deal with dissatisfied employees, but remember to not only respond to negative reviews, but those positive ones too. Positive reviews are a great chance to show your appreciation for all your employees, and including, perhaps especially, the ones who are happy and satisfied with your company. These people are equally important representatives of the company. Reviews of all kinds give you the opportunity to see where you are doing well as where you can improve. Just make sure that you are utilizing the reviews from both the good and the bad to fix and grow on your problems. Every company has areas that could use some work. Reviews can give you insight into those areas that may need some slight improvement. Read and respond to both positive and negative reviews and look for any trends to identify areas in your company that may need more improvement. For example, if you're seeing multiple reviews discussing poor culture, maybe you might look at considering creating an action plan to address those issues. If you see negative reviews about a work-life balance, maybe it's time to reconsider that aspect of your company culture. Reviews provide a deeper look at employee sentiment, and this can be used to your advantage. So let's look at Harrods, our final case study of the day. Again, this is a great way to handle a negative review. No employer is perfect, and in this case, Harrods thanks the reviewer and acknowledges that they have fallen short of their standards. They highlight the company's commitment to providing a positive work environment before inviting the reviewer to share more information privately in an effort to correct things. The director makes it clear that they're working to fix the problem and that this reviewer's experience doesn't reflect how they want employees to feel when working there. This reiterates the company's values and gives a very authentic and genuine response to anybody reading these reviews, whether it be current employees or potential employees. And it does show that Harrods is in fact a proactive employer that takes their feedback from their employees seriously. Action plan. Accentuate the positive. Job seekers use the reviews on Glassdoor to make decisions as to where to apply or what job offer to accept. So use a response to emphasize what makes your company an attractive place to work. That may be that you have some areas to work on, but you are proactively doing so. Or it may be that you're even just looking to improve the areas that you already excel in. So refer to one of the reviewers' positive comments of your company and both personalize your response and reiterate the compliment of potential job candidates while looking for a rounded experience. So let's look at the action plan. I think the bottom line is that it is time for you to join the online conversation. And you can start doing that by responding to reviews. So some action tips. Getting feedback. How can you go about increasing your reviews online? If you don't have that many reviews to respond to yet, this may be something you want to grow. Here are some great ways which you can start asking employees for feedback today. You can ask recruiters to include a check us out on Glassdoor badge with their email signatures. You can ask new hires to submit reviews after their onboarding. You can send company-wide emails encouraging employees to offer feedback, and you can place signs and stickers around the office encouraging employees to let their voice be heard. You can also communicate during team meetings that you would like to hear from employees, especially if you're speaking to managers throughout those team meetings. That's a great way to ensure that you're capturing a nice, rounded audience. And of course, a very great first step is to sign up for your free employer account on Glassdoor today so that you can start responding to those reviews. So any questions? We're going to jump into a really, really quick Q&A before we leave you today. So here's question number 1. Should you respond to just negative reviews? So here at Glassdoor, we believe in the transparent voice. I would suggest that you respond to all reviews equally and with a consistent voice. So I know that we touched on that earlier. That voice for responding to reviews can be anyone who is able to respond on the company's behalf. That could be somebody who is authorized from your managing director to your PR team, to marketing, to HR, or to talent. So anyone who has authorized voice to respond on the company's behalf, just ensuring that their name and their job title is correct and checking for any typos while responding. But here at Glassdoor, back to the question, should you just respond to negative reviews? Here at Glassdoor, when thinking about this, we really think that you should be that transparent voice. I would suggest that you respond to all reviews equally with that consistent and authorized voice. We touch on who may look to respond to the reviews just now, and make sure that that company voice is represented on your online presence. So I think that you should equally be looking, to recap, to respond to both positive and negative reviews and giving them equal insight. So next question. How do you start responding to reviews on Glassdoor? So starting to respond to reviews on Glassdoor is super simple. You can As I just mentioned, get access to your free employer account, and once you have found your authorized voice to respond to both your positive and negative reviews, you can log on and you can start responding to those reviews. One last top tip, as I know you've said it before, is keep an eye out for those typos. So one last quick question before we jump offline. We are often asked, is this something that only large companies should do? Is this something that smaller companies should be getting involved in? Of course, we believe that companies of all sizes should encourage reviews. That doesn't matter whether your company currently has 1,000 employees and 2 reviews, or your company has 4 employees and no reviews. We encourage everybody to ask for reviews no matter what your company size. We feel that growing your online presence, no matter what your size, is important, and receiving that transparent view into your company, whether it's 10 people or whether it's 1,000 people, is really very important. We touched a couple of slides ago on how you can get feedback, and I think some of these key action points work really well for companies no matter what size you are. Another example could be annual reviews. So looking at your employees' yearly anniversary and using that as an appropriate moment to ask them to leave a Glassdoor review. Ask them what their year has been like with the company. Feedback on your company interview process is always a really great way to capture feedback as to what it's like to interview before you even start working for the company, or more importantly, have been offered the job. So those are just a few tips from me today as to how you can increase your reviews, whether you're a small company or whether you are a large company. I want to thank you all very much for taking the time today to join us online for how to respond to reviews on Glassdoor. I hope you have a fabulous day, and I look forward to seeing you online again soon. Thanks so much, everyone. Goodbye.